Single dad cleaner, humiliated by billionaire CEO. Then his tattoo reveals his true identity. The skyscraper glimmered under the morning sun as Ethan, a quiet single father, arrived at the corporate headquarters of a powerful tech empire. He wore a faded uniform and carried his cleaning supplies with pride. Despite the weary lines on his face, his eyes carried warmth and dignity, the kind that came from years of working hard for his son, Noah. While others saw just a janitor, Noah saw a hero who had sacrificed everything to raise him alone. Ethan never complained about the long hours or the rude remarks. He believed every honest job deserved respect. That morning, the company was buzzing with excitement. The new CEO, Victoria Hales, had returned from Europe, a woman known for her brilliance, wealth, and impossible standards. Her employees feared her temper as much as they admired her success. When she stepped into the building in a tailored black suit and heels, silence filled the hall. She was beauty and power wrapped in confidence. Ethan stood aside with his mop, giving her space to pass, but she paused briefly, looking him up and down. "Make sure the floors shine before my meeting," she said coldly. "I can't stand incompetence." He nodded politely, suppressing any reaction. He had faced worse. While cleaning the executive hallway, Ethan overheard staff whispering about the gala that night, a charity event hosted by Victoria herself. It was ironic, he thought, how people could raise money for the poor while ignoring those right in front of them. Later, as he emptied trash bins near her office, Victoria entered with a few high-profile guests. One of them accidentally spilled coffee on the marble floor. "Clean that up," she snapped at Ethan without a glance. As he knelt to wipe the mess, she added mockingly, "At least you're good for something." The laughter of her guests echoed through the corridor. Ethan's hands paused for a moment, his jaw tightening. But he finished his task calmly, offering no words. Inside, though, his heart ached. That evening, Ethan returned home to his small apartment where Noah waited, finishing homework on their worn-out kitchen table. "How was work, Dad?" Noah asked, noticing the tiredness in his father's eyes. "Same as always, champ." Ethan smiled faintly. "But we're getting there." They shared dinner, simple food but filled with warmth. On the wall hung a photo of Ethan in military uniform, holding baby Noah. Few knew the truth. Before his wife's passing, Ethan had served in an elite special operations unit. But when tragedy struck, he left the force to raise his son alone, hiding his past behind a janitor's uniform. The next day brought a surprising turn. The company's main security system malfunctioned just before an important investor presentation. Panic spread across the building. Victoria, furious, ordered everyone to find a solution. "If this system fails, we lose the deal," she shouted. The IT team struggled helplessly until Ethan, who had quietly observed from a distance, stepped forward. "Ma'am," he said respectfully, "I might be able to help." She frowned. "You? You're a cleaner, not a technician." But desperation left her no choice. Ethan examined the system, typed a few quick commands, and within minutes restored full access. The team stared in disbelief. Victoria blinked, then muttered, "Lucky guess." But she couldn't hide her shock when the investors applauded moments later. Later that week, the company hosted a security demonstration for high-level clients, a simulation of cyber and physical defense protocols. The firm had hired private experts for the task, but when one of the security contractors failed to show, chaos erupted again. Victoria glared at her staff. "This is unacceptable. Who can handle this?" No one spoke until Ethan quietly approached once more. "I've done similar operations," he said calmly. Victoria smirked. "You a cleaner? Are you going to mop the thread away?" Her mockery drew nervous laughter, but she let him try out of frustration. When the drill began, Ethan moved with precision and confidence, directing guards and using strategy language that only trained professionals knew. Within minutes, he neutralized the simulation perfectly. The room fell silent. Victoria stared at him, her composure cracking. "Who exactly are you?" she demanded. Ethan just smiled faintly. "Someone who believes in doing his job well." As he rolled up his sleeves to wipe sweat from his arms, a glimpse of his tattoo caught her attention. The insignia of the Navy's most elite special operations unit, known only to top government officials. Her eyes widened in disbelief. "That tattoo," You're one of them? Ethan simply nodded, humble as ever. Was, he said softly. Now I'm just a father. The room erupted in whispers as executives exchanged glances. After the demonstration, Victoria called him into her office. For the first time, her voice was softer. Why didn't you tell anyone who you were? Ethan replied, because people see what they want to see. Some see a cleaner. My son sees a man who doesn't quit. His words struck deep. Victoria, who had built walls around her heart after years of chasing power, felt something shift. For the first time in years, she saw humility and strength that money could never buy. Days passed, and Victoria began to observe Ethan differently. She noticed how he treated everyone with respect, from guards to executives. She saw how his son occasionally visited him after school, their bond unbreakable despite the hardships. One afternoon, she watched quietly from her office window as Ethan taught Noah how to fix a broken vending machine, both laughing together. Something inside her softened, perhaps envy, perhaps admiration. She realized this man, who had every reason to be bitter, carried more grace than anyone she knew. The story took another turn when a fire alarm went off in the building one evening. While everyone panicked, Ethan guided employees calmly towards safety, rescuing a young intern trapped in the server room. Victoria arrived outside, trembling as she saw him emerge carrying the girl. You risked your life, she exclaimed. Ethan simply said, you don't leave people behind. Those 6 words broke her completely. That night, Victoria couldn't sleep. She thought about her arrogance, her loneliness, and the man who showed her what leadership truly meant. The next morning, she called a company meeting. I owe someone an apology, she announced, her voice trembling slightly. She looked directly at Ethan. I judged you by your uniform, not your character. You reminded me that true power is in humility and courage. From today, you're no longer just part of this company. You're leading it. Gasps filled the room as she handed him a new ID badge. Ethan shook his head humbly. I don't need a title, ma'am. I just need to set an example for my son. The room erupted in applause. Weeks later, Victoria visited Ethan and Noah at their small home, bringing gifts and gratitude. She watched the boy proudly show her his drawings and science projects. You're raising an incredible kid, she said warmly. Ethan smiled. He's the reason I never gave up. That night, as she left, Victoria looked back at them, the humble father and his bright-eyed son, realizing that all her success meant nothing compared to what they shared. In time, Victoria launched a foundation to support single parents and veterans, inspired by Ethan's story. When she invited him to the opening ceremony, she introduced him not as a cleaner, not as a former soldier, but as the man who taught her what integrity truly means. Ethan stood beside his son, proud but humble as always, his tattoo no longer a secret but a symbol of silent strength. And in that moment, everyone who once laughed at the janitor stood in awe. Because sometimes, the most extraordinary people wear the simplest uniforms, and their greatest victories are not in wealth or fame, but in the lives they touch with quiet dignity.